out, we're going to look at economies of scale. And so for this first one, we need to figure out which machine makes sense to use depending on how many pages we're going to type. So for this one, we have a typewriter that costs $100. And so that is the fixed cost. It doesn't matter if you type 30 pages or 2,000 pages, the machine is $100, so that is a fixed cost. Variable cost is the cost that changes or varies depending on how many pages that you type. And for the typewriter, the manual typewriter, it costs you $3 per page to hire someone to use that. So the variable cost is going to be the the 30 pages that they typed times the $3 per page. So $3 times 30 is 90, 3 times 50 is 150, and then so forth. Our total costs are our fixed cost plus variable cost. So if we add the machine plus the variable cost, we're able to get our total cost column. So for economies of scale, what we need to look at is the average total cost. And economies of scale means that as your business gets bigger, as the scale or the size of your business gets bigger and you are producing more and more units, the cost per unit goes down. And the reason that is because we are able to take the fixed cost and divide it between all of the number of pages or all of the output that we are producing. It doesn't matter if it's pages being typed or whatever. So what we see here is the more pages that we type on this one manual typewriter, it becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper because the scale or the size of production is increasing, and we are dividing the fixed cost no longer for just 30 pages, but we can take this $100 and divide it between amongst 2,000, and so the average total cost starts to go down. So this here is a graph of our average total cost, and so we're going to label $2, $4, $6, and $8. These are costs, so these are dollar amounts. And so down here is 30, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, and 2,000. So right here at 30, if we only type 30 pages, our average total cost is going to be $6.33. When we type 50 pages, that average total cost per page, and that's what we're looking at, it costs us $5 per page to use this machine. If we type 100, because we can divide the machine amongst 100 pages, we can get our average cost down to $4. If we type 500 and divide the fixed cost between the 500 pages, our average total cost is $3.20, then $3.10, and then $3.05. So that's for the manual typewriter. If we did the same thing for the electronic typewriter, the machine or the fixed cost is $200. And so then you get your variable cost. Again, it's $1.50 per page times 30. That gives you your 45, and you do that all the way down, and you add your fixed cost plus your variable cost to get your total cost. So again, we're looking at, to calculate the economies of scale, the average total cost. So if our machine is $200, and we divide that 200 amongst 30, our per page is $8.17. If we type 50 pages, it gets cheaper. If we type 100, 500, 1,000, 2,000. And again, we're doing 2, 4, 6, 8 because that is our average total cost. These are dollars. So if we type 30 pages, the average per page is going to be $8.17. If we can split that electronic typewriter between 50 copies, it gets a little cheaper. It's $5.50. For 100 copies, it's $3.50, then $1.90, $1.70, and $1.60. So the more we type and the more we can split this fixed cost on more and more of an output, our per unit cost goes down. And then this is the computer. So the computer costs $1,000. That's a fixed cost. Doesn't matter how many we type. It's going to cost us $1,000 whether we type 30 or whether we type 3,000. Our variable cost, it's a little cheaper. It's only 50 cents to hire a typist to type on this. So our variable cost, again, varies depending on how many. So 50 cents times 30, and that's how we get this. And then we're going to add these two together to get your total cost, and we're going to take our total cost divided by the number of pages to see if it's 1,015 for 30, how much is it per page? And so it's $33.83 if we're only going to type 30 pages. Per page it's $20.50, $10.50, $2.50, $1.50, and $1. And so we're going to change these numbers to 10, 20, 30, 40 because we are graphing the average total cost. So if we're only typing 30 pages and we spend $1,000 on a machine, our total cost to type those 30 pages is $1,015. If we divide that by the 30, it's $33.83 per page. But as we are able to type more and more pages, split the cost of this fixed cost instead of amongst the 30 pages, but 2,000, we can get our average total cost per page down pretty low. So if we're only typing 30, the average cost of a page is $33.83. If we're typing 50, the average cost per page is $20.50, then $10.50, $2.50, $1.50, and then $1. So we can see here which machine is least expensive. And if we go back to the average total cost for each one of these, so we're going to look at the last column for each one of these. So if we are only typing 30 pages, it's $6.33. If we buy a manual typewriter, it's $8.17 for the electronic, and it's $33.83. So we see the manual typewriter, it's cheaper, $6.33. If you go back and look at 50 pages, obviously, the manual is going to be cheaper if this is all you're going to type. But if you start typing more per page, it makes sense to get the electronic typewriter for 100 pages and 500 because they have the lowest average total cost. If you're going to be typing a lot, it makes sense to go ahead and invest in the computer because the average total cost per page is $1.50 for 1,000 and $1 for 2,000. So how is the long run average total cost curve different for your individual average total cost curves? And that's just going back and looking at the graphing. It shows the least cost of each technology at all levels in output. In this case, were there economies of scale or diseconomies of scale? And we're going to kind of ignore the diseconomies of scale, but it was economies of scale. And how do we know that? Because your average total cost fell as your output increased for each one of the different technologies that were used. So it was economies of scale, and we can see that because as we produced more, our average total cost went down, and that is what economies of scale is. As you produce more, your average total cost is going to go down because you can divide this fixed cost over more and more and more units, so it allows you to get cheaper, or allows you to produce at a lower average total cost.